Well, today is Monday, July 28th, 2025, and it's about 10:41 Central Standard Time. And it's still a hot one for another couple of days. It's already about 88 degrees. Maybe about 86. In 2 months, I've been seeing these floods going on in northern parts of Missouri around Ellsbury, which is along the Mississippi River, south of Hannibal, and Schaumburg, Illinois, up in that area, close to Chicago, and my sister-in-law, and Iowa. Of course, we had New Mexico and Texas, very bad flooding. I understand China's having bad flooding. Before that, New Jersey and areas of New York, I think, are getting flooded. I've seen the weirdest thing, a tornado that just sat on the ground. Thank God it was out in an open field. And it was at least 15 minutes just sitting on the ground. They had it on video, the storm chasers. Amazing. Well, on this channel we talk about a lot of things. And today we'll talk about my brief experiences that I recall, and as I recall them, concerning what I'd say are paranormal events. And my cat's trying to get in. I can't open the door. You want in? Or do you want to hear the paranormal stories? Well, let's see if we could just let him in. He doesn't want his sister in here because sometimes he doesn't like her presence. Okay, now you can go in. All right. Okay, well, you going in? What do you think about it? Well, I do this. All right, I'm not going to even edit this out. I'm just going to shut it. And he knows how to get in. Anyway, there's 5 that I recall. They're nothing earth-shaking, but see what you think. So, I'm 14 years old. And as I started getting used to doing, I started ditching school, which means not going to school. We lived in a trailer park. We lived at the last street of the trailer park. And the trailer park behind us had houses, but to the right was a big open field and the country roads. And there was what they call a sale barn, an auction barn, where they'd bring livestock. They had horses, goats, pigs, bulls, I don't know what else, at this sale barn. And the building in there was not heated, at least not when I was in there. And being that it was winter time, it was not too cold to be outside because I stayed out all day. And I'd go in there because it had a clock, and I could pet the animals and go to the bathroom and stuff like that. And I was walking out this road. It was winter time, so there was some snow on the ground. I don't remember it being on the road though. And there was this really old cemetery there. Now this is like 1969, so there's a real old cemetery, and it wasn't very big. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how big it was, but I would think it was no more than 40 or 50 feet by 50 or 60 feet. And it had an iron rock gate around it. And it was, had a number of headstones in there. And to your left when you walk in was a little shed or little stone building. And that was, I imagine, the caretaker's tools. And as I walked back about 3/4 of the way, or maybe more, to the back of the cemetery, and I walked straight back. There was a mound of dirt covered in snow. At least that's what I think it was. And I would say that mound of dirt was probably about 3 foot high. And I walked right straight to it, and then I walked around it. And I started looking at the tombstones around it. But while I was looking at the tombstones with my back to the road and the entrance of the cemetery, I thought I heard someone walking in the snow. And it's one of those feelings where you think someone's behind you or someone's watching you. I thought I heard someone walking in the snow. You could hear them. A slight crunch. And I was kind of scared, even though it was broad daylight. I was out there by myself. And I didn't hear a car or anything pull up. I didn't see anybody. Not that somebody couldn't have been in the shed, the caretaker's place. So I got enough nerve up to turn around and look, and nobody was there. I thought, that's weird. Because before I heard somebody walking in the snow. So I thought, well, we got snow on the ground. Let's go see if there's any footprints. So I went back, about 8 or 10 feet where I was behind that little hill covered in snow. And I seen my footprints. And I could tell by I made an impression next to these other footprints. I could tell they were mine because it had the treads of my shoes on them. But it looked like my footprints were in other footprints. And the thing is, the other footprints stopped at the hill. They didn't go over the hill, and they didn't go either side around the hill. So to me, that said somebody was walking in the snow, making an impression. Like you hear about people saying they feel somebody's presence, and they look at their bed, and they see indentations on the bed as if somebody's sitting there. That's what they do. Oh yeah, these birds out here, they like to fly up here that's where there's a nest. And then they sit up here. There's one up there sitting on guarding the nest. They'll fly right here, shoo, right in front of me. They did about 3 times the last video I made. Because I'm in the shade here. But anyway, maybe I should go down there. But anyway, that was one of my experiences. Now that was 69, I believe. Maybe early 70. And, hey buddy. He's all comfortable. You know how animals can stay out in the heat. Really a nice, cool house to stay in, huh? Yeah, he's saying, what, are you filming me? You recording me? You doing a video recording of me? So the second was the mid-1980s. I had my 1.5, 2-year-old daughter in my arm. And we had this shotgun apartment. It's 3 rooms. You had a vestibule closed in, and then you had the living room area, which is about 12 feet long, and about 10 or 12 feet for what would be considered a dining room. And then the kitchen, which was about, I'm going to say about 10 feet from where I was standing to the door. To my left would be a refrigerator just inside the kitchen area. And then there was like a divider that was about about stomach high. It was higher than my waist, but probably up to right underneath my chest bone. And I could lean on there. We had it had like a shelf on there, and we could put our phone on there. We had landlines there, no cell phones, just a landline. And then directly in front of me, about 6 or 7 feet, was the sink. Had the sink, had some cabinets on top, and that was probably 6 or 7 feet long. And right beside that, to the right, was the door that went upstairs to the bedroom and the bathroom. And there was nothing in that area, either on the stairs going up or just in front of it. It was carpet, and it was open. And we had the table, our kitchen table was just up against the divider wall I was leaning against. So it was all open area, no chairs, no nothing. It was just me and my daughter. I don't even think my wife was home at the time. And I took a balloon, and I was amusing her. I'd blow up the balloon, and then I just let it go, and it goes flying all around the place, and you never know where it's going to land. It just goes flying crazily, and the kids like it. They enjoy it, think it's funny. And I was doing that. And then one time I blew it up, and I let it fly, and it always flew, I think, over there by the stairway. And it would land on the floor or the sink. So this time it should have landed on the floor. I went over there and it wasn't there. I thought, wait a minute, I was just watching this thing. I know it went right over here and fell down. And I looked and looked, and there's really nothing to look for. It was right there or wasn't. I looked underneath the kitchen table, wasn't under there. I looked on the kitchen chairs. There was about 4 or 6 of those. Wasn't there. I thought, well, maybe somehow, some way, it got behind the sink, which was right up against the wall, and it didn't get behind. There was no way. It didn't go on the stairs just behind the floor. And I looked crazily, even though I knew where it should have landed, and I saw it go there. So that's crazy enough, right? Not so much. Maybe somehow, some way, I just missed where it went. But the crazy part was sometime later, and I can't tell you if it was days, weeks, or months. I think I was walking up the stairs, and I looked down, and there was that balloon right in the middle of the floor, perfectly in the middle, just where I thought it should have been when I lost track of it. It was just laying there open and void. Someone just walked by and dropped it there. Like, hey, here's the balloon you were looking. Here it is, right here. So what happened there? Was that a vortex? Was that some portal to another dimension? And how does it go from one dimension and come back to the other dimension? Which makes you question what matter is. And they say matter, the so-called substance of matter, is really no more solid than the air around us. That it's our thought, our minds that make it appear to be solid. Really, it's not. And we're not going to go into it on this video, but how do you have instantaneous healings? How do you have healings at all without matter being involved? I mean, it's crazy enough that, when you heat up water, it'll turn into a gas and you won't see it, or it'll be a liquid, or if you freeze it, it'll become a solid. So is that what happens with matter, with dimensions? There's a point when somehow it becomes like a gas. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I was aware of that kind of stuff back then, but I wasn't thinking about it was going to disappear or anything. So that's my second story. My third story is one I witnessed also. We were in our one house. This was probably somewhere between 2010 and 2013. I don't remember. But we were in our little house, and we had it was a little cottage type house. But you had your living room, then you had to walk to your dining room into your galley kitchen. The galley kitchen was probably about, 8 to 10 feet long. To your right was a refrigerator and a microwave on a shelf, and then cabinets on top. And to the left was the stove and the sink, cabinets underneath, cabinet at the top. And then above to your left, above the stove, was a shelf, maybe two, but this was the higher shelf. And we had some stuff up there. One thing we had up there was one of those plastic cups they give you when you go in the hospital. You put your ice water in it. It's basically a big plastic tumbler. I don't know, it's about 16 ounces, 20 ounces, whatever it is. It's got a lid on it. And we had one of those sitting up on the top shelf. And I believe it was my wife and one of my daughters, my youngest daughter, who was probably, let's see, how old was she been? 26 maybe? About 25, 26 years old. And they were walking in front of me. And we were just, casual walk through the house. I don't know where we were going. My wife went first, then my daughter went, and my daughter was in front of me. And then, there's a trash man. And my daughter was in front of me. And as she walked in front of me, which had to be about, 6 feet in front of me, that cup on my left, up over my head, probably about 7 feet up, I watched it get like someone tossed it at my daughter's foot as she walked by. It was like someone just was sitting up there and just kind of tossed it at an angle, like a 30-degree angle, just lightly tossed. It wasn't thrown, it was lightly tossed down right towards her foot, and it missed her foot, just missed her foot. And I seen that happen. And it didn't shake off or anything like that. If it did, it would have just fell straight down. And there was no wind up there, there was no fan, there was no cat, nothing up there, nothing at all. It was just like someone was sitting there and just lightly tossed it towards her foot. and mist. That was the third thing. Now, also in that house, my wife told me that when I was working out of town one time, that she said that she could feel like somebody was in bed with her, like someone like touching her back. Now, we did have some cats that would lay on our bed with us at night. And she also said one time she was starting to walk through the bedroom door and felt like someone kind of gave her a light shove. And then another time, in the same period, she said that somebody or something turned the light on or the light off in the bedroom. So she had a few of those experiences. But now we fast forward to about 2013, 14, 15, I don't know. It was Christmas time. My granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, she was living with us with my daughter. It was Christmas time, or maybe it's her birthday. Her birthday's 2 days after Christmas, but it was around that Christmas time period. It was during the day, and she was sitting down on the floor. We had a carpeted floor, and I think my wife was to her right, which is right by the front door. I was standing taking the video, so I was looking at her. So to my left was my wife in the front door. My granddaughter was in front of me, in front of our television stand and the TV and so forth. And I would say she was no more than 6 feet in front of me, 6 to 8 feet. And I was doing a video recording. It was the daytime. And we had a window to her left, a big bay window that went ceiling to floor. And then our door, and I don't remember if either of those were open. Well, the blinds were probably open on the window. I don't know about the door because it was winter time. And she was on the floor opening presents. And as I was recording, I seen a little orb of light pass in front of her. I thought, wow, and I seen it as I was recording it. I thought, oh, I wonder what that was. And I just wrote it off to be in, I moved my phone so it just picked up a little bit of light or something outside just for a moment. But I don't know if you ever heard those stories about where people talk about little orbs of light. They seem to be like intelligent. Some people think those are spirit bodies, or some people think they're otherworldly beings or some kind of UFO, extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional type of thing. And you hear about them a lot in stories like The Entity. If you look that story up, I think they talk about seeing lights being filmed. Or actually, it wasn't The Entity. It was the guy who was consultant on The Entity, based supposedly on a real story. It was called The Unknown Encounter. And Barry Taff, I think his name was T-A-F-T, Barry Taff made the video, and I think they were talking about and filmed orbs. And if you watch these ghost hunters things, you'll see a lot of them. They'll show orbs, and you just hear a lot of these stories. Well, it was like that, but it was daytime. So it was bright enough for me to see, and I did capture it on video, and I went back and looked at the video. I looked to see if I was moving the video, because she was sitting still, so I was just sitting still. I wasn't moving it to the left or the right that I can recall. I'll have to go back and look at it again. But it seemed to me like I just had it steady, and this thing entered the picture, and I can't tell if it went behind her or in front of her or through her. But there it was. What do you think? I guess you're saying, well, you maybe should show us the video. Maybe sometime I will. And my last one was not too long ago. It was this year. And I used to deliver meds to nursing homes. And occasionally I still do. But I used to do this one regularly. Now, I don't know if this one I was regularly doing it. But it was a daytime route. And I'd usually get down there between 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd park in front. This day I parked in front, and there's a curb and a sidewalk, and then there's the door to go into the right, glass door, and it got a glass vestibule there, and then you go in through another door, you make a left, and you go down the hall. So I pulled right up to this, the curb, and curb was like from my car door to the front of my car. That's how close I was. I was right up against it, and that sidewalk was right there. Nobody's around. And so I went to get out. I opened my car door, and I looked down. Before I put my foot down, there was a piece of there was a plastic bag there, and it seemed familiar to me. It seemed like I knew what this plastic bag was. And I thought about it, and I thought, wait a minute, that plastic bag looks like the plastic bag I have on my monocular, which should be in my glove box. Because all my cars, well, two of my cars I think have monoculars. If you don't know what a monocular is, it's one lens instead of two. Like a binocular is bi for two, a monocular is mono for one. So I had a monocular. It's, I had a like a leather type case with a pull string on it. I put it in there, and I think it had a cap over the lens or lenses. And then I put it, just for safekeeping, I put it inside the plastic bag in which they mailed it to me, just for added protection, like water or something. And I had it in my glove box. Now the thing is, I didn't take that thing out of my glove box that day. I didn't touch it. I mean, I rarely even think about that thing. For some reason, that bag on the ground just reminded me immediately of that monocular bag. I thought, well, I didn't take it out. How would it get there? And I was there the week before, I think, but I thought, I don't remember taking it out then either, and I don't even know if I was parked here. And even if I was parked somewhere else, how could it be on the ground for a whole week and then kind of just blow right here where I am? I guess stranger things have happened. But there it was. I thought, oh, that's weird. That really looks like that bag. Maybe just a coincidence, Maybe just happenstance. And normally what I do is that day I pushed the lock button down. I didn't get out and do it with my key fob. I just pushed the lock button down. And I went to get out, and I seen that, and I reached down and grabbed that bag, and for some reason, that bag was there, and for some reason I immediately thought of it being my monocular bag, which I don't think I took that bag off of my monocular, which was in my glove box. And for some reason, instead of taking my keys out with me, well, even before that, all I should have done normally would be reach over and open the glove box and reach in for my monocular. But for some reason, I was in this state of mind like, just take the long way. Just walk around the other side of the car and open the passenger door and then open the glove box. I don't have to struggle leaning over the console and the stick and all that, and just, just get out. And I had already locked the door. Now, instead of taking my keys and putting them in my pocket like I normally would, or having them in my hand, now I just took my keys and just threw it on the car seat. And I do that sometime when I'm coming in or out. I don't want to mess with my keys. I just toss them on there and leave them. Don't fumble around with them. And for some reason, I just left them on the car seat, and I forgot that I already locked the door, which normally I wouldn't. Well, I do sometimes, but I usually have my keys with me. But I didn't have my keys in my hand, so I locked the door. I forgot. So I got out, I shut the door, I picked up the bag, went around the other side to open the other door, and it was locked. I thought, why is this door locked? Oops, I ain't got my keys. Oops, I remember I locked it manually. Oh my gosh. So now I locked myself out of the car. Oh, and I went inside to talk to a nurse, explain what happened. I didn't even have my phone. My phone was in the car. I ultimately had to use the phone of the nurse to try to call somebody. And what generally happened was, oh, there he is. What generally happened would be I'd call my insurance company and they'd send a locksmith out. But she knew, she looked around, she talked to somebody else, and the nurse called somebody, and there was a locksmith in town. And he actually got over there, I think, in like 15 or 20 minutes. It was no more than a half hour. And he had one of those newfangled things where you push the window out with a little pry bar, and you stick this little bag in there, and you pump it up with a hand pump. It's got a hand pump on it. And it opens up the window just enough, lightly, where you can stick a big metal rod down there and open your car door. Which is what he did. It cost me $50. Pretty cheap, because at home it would cost me $100. And it cost me $50. I gave him cash. I happen to have $50 cash on me, which is amazing. And he probably got done in about 2 minutes. Once he got there and he got his stuff out, probably took him a minute or less to pry that open I mean, yeah, I'd say a minute or two is all it took. Fantastic. And in the meantime, while I was waiting for him to get there, I looked at that bag and I thought, it sure does look like that bag. And I threw it away and didn't think anything about it. I thought, this bag has caused me grief because now, because I was dealing with this bag, I got locked out. It cost me $50. La la la. And as I was driving home, I was probably about halfway home. I mean, this place was, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours from my house. I had to go to, I think, another stop. And as I got halfway home, I'm driving on this little highway. I thought, I wonder if that really was my bag. It sure looked like it. But no, I got my bag on my monocular. So while I was driving, I reached over, opened my glove box, grabbed the binocular, and sure enough, the bag was not on there. The bag was not on my monocular. And I can't think of when did I hardly ever use that monocular. Probably a handful of times, and it was probably in a year or so that I had that binocular in that car. We had that car for a year and a half or less at that time. And I don't know if I've ever even, other than putting it in there originally when we got the car a year or so prior, I don't remember ever taking the binocular out. I might have took it out once or twice for some reason. I use it to look for addresses and things like that when I'm driving at night or in the daytime. And I don't know how that bag got off, but like I said, here I was at this place. I only go there once a week. And now the garbage man's on my side of the street. I only go there once a week. And I never take that binocular out, let alone, well, if you take it out and use it, you have to take the bag off. Well, I generally do. I guess you wouldn't necessarily have to. You just reach in there and grab the bag and pull the binocular out. But I usually would take it out of the bag. My leather type bag, I'd take it out of the bag. But that plastic bag was laying right there. I just happened to park right at that spot, and literally as soon as you open the door, there it was right at the bottom, like somebody just placed it there. And it didn't even blow away. Whether there was wind or not, usually there was a little breeze, but it didn't blow away, sitting right there, quiet and still, right outside my car door, right where I put my foot down. I just happened to park in that parking spot, and it was right at that location, right outside my car door. Haven't been there for at least a week, if not longer. And I had taken, it was off of my bag, and I'll bet you that was the bag. How did it get there? If I never took it out, how did it get right in that spot? Now I see my problem of doing things I normally don't do, like locking the car door manually and not reaching over and getting the glove box, reaching over from the driver's side and opening the glove box that way instead of walking all the way around the car, leaving my keys on the car seat. That's my fault. But something I did that's slightly out of the ordinary for me. But how'd that bag get there when I wasn't taking it off? So I know that was a long-winded explanation, but I just wanted to drill into it. Like I had to drill into it when I was standing there. So what kind of paranormal experiences have you had? I've heard other experiences from other people, talking about ghosts and going into a room in their apartment that was cold. And I live in the town where The Exorcist supposedly actually happened, in the hospital back in the late 1940s, early 1950s. And I think the guy who was the young exorcist with the more experienced one, he actually lived in this town until he passed, I think. I don't know. So what are your experiences? Why don't you tell me what your thoughts are on mine, if you got any, or any questions, and tell me some of your experiences down in the comment section. I look forward to hearing them. Well, until next time, we are going to buzz off here, and I wish you all well. Wish you great health and happiness and understanding. Bless you all. Take care. Namaste.